Basic facts about Plato. Plato was born in 428 BC and then died in 348 BC. Plato was actually one of the first philosophers to write down his ideas, unlike his friend Socrates. Plato was born in Athens, Greece. He pushed ideas about knowledge and sought out the essential nature of things. He wanted to acquire knowledge that was eternal and changeless. He wanted to acquire knowledge by using a dialect method, which would include discussing an idea critically, questioning it, and then subjecting it to counter-arguments. Purpose of dialect is to reveal the conscious or our conscious awareness. Through critical and rational thought and discussion, we can uncover the internal and innate ideas. Plato was a rationalist. Plato studied civics with philosopher Socrates. It was through meeting Socrates that Plato developed a love for philosophy, until Socrates was sentenced to death, but then committed suicide. Plato was extremely upset, and he actually began to critique the Athenian democracy, as it was responsible for the death of Socrates. He became disappointed with politics and left Athens. Plato then created his own academy to allow people to study subjects like science, mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy. This is where Plato came up with his legal philosophy. With this theory, he believed that laws are made from specific decisions, but there is a law that is pre-existing that works adequately as well. Plato believes that institutions should promote courage over the ability to resist pleasure and the ability to resist pain. Plato believed in a controlled symposia, which were drinking parties that occurred in Athens, Greece. Plato had his own ideas of what justice was. He had the belief that you should pay attention to the nature of justice and injustice as they appear within the states, then secondly into the individual. This is because he believed that justice exists in both society as well as the individual. Justice within an individual, Plato believes it is a human virtue. He believes that justice was a social consciousness that ultimately keeps societies peaceful and harmonious. Plato believed that with human ethics and well-being, that was the most important thing. Plato's ideas of happiness were sometimes very difficult to obtain, and this was his idea. Plato had ideas for morality had to come off as strict. Plato held beliefs of a link between human organism and the social organism. He states that our souls have kept us unaware and uninterested in what our bodies actually desire. Plato believed that our souls are split into three parts: rational, emotional, and appetitive. He believed that each part of the soul has its own desires, and that an individual was only just when each part of the soul performs its function without interfering with any of the other elements. With this, Plato believed that it is best for us when we are motivated by goals that have to do with reason. Plato considered the purpose and the goal for law was about having peace and a high quality of life for its citizens. Plato was a part of the Platonic Academy period of philosophy. This period covered the idea that reason shows us that there must be a set fixed of unchanging ideas, which not only explain our highest ideals, but also the ordinary ways we understand concepts and languages. The entire period was focused on following certain ideals. This period was between 390 and 270 BC.
Laws affect our everyday lives in every aspect. We have various laws that govern activities that we do, which gives us a set of rules that protects everyone's rights. The rule of law, freedom under the law, democratic principles, and respect for others form the foundations of Canada's legal heritage. There are many types of theorists, and the one that we'll be talking about mainly today will be natural law theorists. Now, before we get started, what is natural law? Through natural law, they are looking at the world in a philosophical lens. They agree that people make mistakes and that the laws are there to guide individuals toward the right path. They look at morality in a different point of view, and that is what allows them to decide whether it is proper or improper to do. Historically, natural law refers to the use of reason to analyze both social and personal human nature to deduce binding rules of moral behavior. The law of nature, as it is determined by nature, is universal. The term natural law is derived from the belief that human morality comes from nature. Everything in nature has a purpose, including humans. In short, any law that is good is moral, and any moral law is good. Plato thought that humans were social by nature and that the organized society was a natural institution. Society, or the state, did not exist for economic reasons alone, but to help people develop the good life, the life that is led according to the principles of justice. Much of Plato's longest dialogue, The Republic, forms a meditation on the question as to what is justice. In the dialogue, Plato is writing on behalf of what Socrates said, and what he states is that natural law should be evident in two places, in the individual and in the state. An individual may be considered just when all the person's powers, physical, mental, and spiritual, are working in harmony with one another, with the lower powers subordinated to the higher. A person achieves this state of justice through the use of reason. In the same way, the state is considered just when each class of persons performs its own functions properly and does not interfere with the functions of any other class. As a human being achieved justice through reason, so the state achieved justice through law. For Plato, justice exists when all the powers of the individual or society work together for the good of the whole. Human laws must be based on knowledge of the internal laws that rule the universe. The first and most basic law for Plato is to do good and to avoid evil. All the rest of natural laws flow with the basic premise. For Plato, law is closely associated with morality. Now, the question that I must answer is, what was the philosopher's major contribution in Western legal thought? What are the main concepts contributed? Explain your philosopher's view on law, justice, morality, and what theorist is he/she. Now, 2,400 years ago, Plato taught that every human soul has a desire to reach for a higher, pure, and more spiritual truth that will illuminate our lives and transform our world. That's made him the chief spokesman for every religious mystic and every believer in the supernatural reality the West has ever produced. The concept contributed is the way of seeing the world. To answer what kind of theorist Plato is, he is a natural law theorist due to his beliefs.
Plato had many views upon the nature of law. In order for a good society to exist, it was crucial that there be a link to God, whom he believed was the true measure of all things. He believed that justice is related to equality and that all citizens and social groups should receive equal treatment. Treating friends well and enemies badly is not a definition of justice to Plato, as it is a mistaken belief of what justice is and is a belief grounded on factionalism. Plato believed that evaluating beliefs and correct beliefs is the best political order and did not agree that major decisions should be left to the public. He believed that the dominant political group institutes laws for their own benefit. The Democrats make laws that support democracy, aristocrats to support the well-born, and so on. Therefore, he implies that justice is not a universal moral value, nor is it beneficial to those who are not in power, as those who are in power declare what they have made, what is to their own advantage to be just. As well, Plato disliked the Greek democracy that he knew, as it was unstable and lacked leaders with proper skills and moral values. Law is a subjection of human behavior to the governance of rules. Everyone, including the government, is bound by the rules. Natural law depicts that the law is eternal and unchangeable and is directly related to nature. Therefore, the law is applicable to all people as it supports universally shared moral principles. Laws exist in society to keep order. All governments have their own approach to law, and so the laws differ as an extension of their approach. Although laws cannot fully prevent anything from taking place, such as a burglary, having the laws in place will lessen the chances of it happening, as people are often intimidated by them. This causes people to be more considerate. Although philosophers have debated whether or not people have an ethical responsibility to follow the laws, it is important to remember that laws were only created to prevent chaos in society, a benefit to all members of a population. Plato's view on the nature of law was that if only a philosopher was fit to govern, as he must be a lover of wisdom, the meaning of the Greek word philosophia. In order for someone to be a successful ruler, they must be healthy both in their mind and their body, as having a healthy body had a correlation to having a healthy mind. As well, mathematics was necessary as it enhances the logical thinking process, which allows people to see in full clarity. With such training, the ruler will analytically be able to deal with problems. Finally, love and knowledge of music was essential as it has associations with justice and harmonious order. Good musical composition adheres to political idealism, good governance and practical reasonableness, a plan for the community in which everyone is treated in a non-discriminatory manner. Overall, Plato believed that everybody has the ability to do and achieve good in the world, and laws were unnecessary in ruling a population. For Plato, it is more important to have a leader with stronger moral values ruling the people.